Geek Myths, a novel about life, love, and the pursuit of sonic screwdrivers. Available in paperback and Kindle edition from Amazon.
Scanning for audio.
Welcome to a Tin Dog Podcast. This time talking about television Doctor Who, episode 6 from 2018, Demons of the Punjab. You know, my Indian subcontinent history's a bit patchy. I'm a white middle-aged man from the UK, and I'm kind of ashamed of this. You see, I get the rise of the East India Company, you know, because that leads to pirates and stuff. And I know about and I'm using the rabbit ears here, of course, the time of the history called the Indian Mutiny. But I only know that because I was helping my old boss research a book. One of the few things I really don't know about is the partition of India. I must admit, I kind of should have seen the film Gandhi, but I haven't quite got round to it. Now, here's something that everyone seems to have forgotten. So everyone pay attention. Doctor Who is a kids' show. Remember when you were a kid, you didn't know all of history, right? Because you lived in the moment. If you're in the UK and you're my age, here's something for you to focus on. Remember when you were little and people used to talk about guerrilla fighting and you used to think it was actual guerrillas? And then people were talking about the Troubles in Ireland as if everyone who was a kid knew what the Troubles were all about, what they were fighting over. People don't know these things, and if it's not immediately affecting you, it might not be a bit of history that you know anything about. It's a bit of a crime, but it is understandable. But I work in Bradford. I should know this sort of stuff, yeah? I live not that far from Sheffield. One thing that I do know about is that the man they called Mountbatten, the person in charge of putting a big line through a country, and let's face it, it always worked so well putting a big line right across Ireland and segregating religious communities that they thought they'd do it all again. Yeah, because that also worked really well. Mountbatten was not my granddad's favourite person. My granddad had served in the Far East in the Second World War and wouldn't have a good word said about the man. His approach to his men and his approach to his behaviour did not go down well. Life is complicated. People's opinions are coloured by their own experiences, and that's perfectly acceptable. Now, everyone out there who's complaining about Doctor Who, yes, all of you lot, I know it's some of you, I do. For a start, I've got a few points to make. Number one, there's no real monsters in this story. Are you sure? There's a guy in it who kills a wandering holy man. There's a guy in it who betrays his family, his brother, for an ideal, for something that is basically made up. Oh, admittedly, all ideals are made up, so that really isn't something to worry about too much. So yes, this story did have a monster. It didn't have a monster who happened to have 4 heads or was purple or was shouting random stuff. Well, no, it did have a monster who was shouting random stuff, but you know what I mean. The aliens weren't the monsters, which is a bit Star Trek. Now, some people out there, mainly people on the press side of things, you know, the sort of people who are prone to making stuff up in order to annoy everyone else. Yes, those people. They're the ones talking about Doctor Who's figures going down or people not enjoying it or whatever. Well, you know what? For a start, the figures aren't going down, so we can ignore that piece of untruth, whatever they call them. Lies, that's it, lies. Incorrect facts, post-truth, banter, nonsense. No, let's stick with lies. Now, what people are talking about when they're talking about a PC backlash is a couple of things. But what it basically comes down to is a load of very old school Doctor Who fans going, "Oh, where are the Daleks? We want the Daleks." And they're stamping their foot because that's all that it's about. "Where are my Cybermen? I want some Santarans." And that is basically what they're doing. Now, for years, these same people have gone, "Oh God, it's the Daleks again. Can't you just give them a year off?" Well, you know what? This is what Doctor Who looks like if you give the Daleks a year off. Get over it. But you know what? If you're complaining about that, you're not complaining about the Doctor being a woman, you're not complaining about a host of other things that you were complaining about during the gap in between seasons. You've got a whole new list of things you want to moan about. Well, good luck to you. Which brings me to another point. The return of the purely historical story. I'm not completely sure this is possible. A Doctor Who story where there is no alien influence? Is it possible these days? It hasn't been done since the 60s. Seriously. Alright, Black Orchid is an exception. But let's look at it this way. In the story, this story that we've just watched, does the Doctor's appearance, involvement make any real difference? The aliens themselves aren't really doing anything. I'll get to those in a moment. So perhaps that is at its core what people are moaning about. Because this is a glorious show, teaching people a bit of history they probably weren't aware of. Especially if you're little, you'll go, "What's all that about?" "Oh, right." And then you learn. Which isn't that what Doctor Who was about all those years ago? It's not politically correct. If the word politically correct means let's all be nice to each other, then yes, sign me up as Doctor Who, the most politically correct programme in the universe. Sign me up, lock me away if it's a crime to be nice to someone. And of course, moaning about Doctor Who is what fans do well. The press don't realise this. We often need something to moan about, to kick off about. For example, I'll have my moan that I have every week. I'm not a big fan of the Salt Crystal TARDIS. Oh God, you must be sick of me banging on about it. Oh, I don't really like the design. Oh, have you noticed in the background the arms go up and down at the same time as the Time Rotor? Not seen that before. Still don't like it. Oh, if you saw that in real life it would look a bit ropey, but it was out of focus at the back, and all of that nonsense. No one cares. Some designers have tried really hard. However, the alien spacecraft, now that is a goth TARDIS. Just like last week with a central control panel in the middle. You never used to get those. And this is the second week in a row where you've had something with a central control panel that looked glorious and so much better than the TARDIS that was in. It's as if they had yet another attempt at building another TARDIS and went, yep, that's for me. The goth TARDIS. That's what it would have been. It would have been beautiful, and I would have loved this series with absolutely all of my heart, but it's not real. These things won't have happened. They'll have gone, here's your design for your bat spaceship alien things. Now, these are the people who travel through time, apparently, and the experience... Oh, by the way, their world was destroyed and nobody found out why. Oh, do you think it's linked with the overarching storyline? Nice and subtle, nicely laid in. People haven't mentioned it, so I'm guessing it was subtle enough for everyone to get away with it. So, their world was destroyed. They decided to change their ways and just become witnesses to people's deaths. Sounds familiar? Well, it did to me. Back at Christmas, do you remember Christmas? Like 11 months ago? There was a storyline about, at people's deaths, some big ghostly glass woman turns up and takes them and puts them inside a giant computer. There's going to be a queue. When you die, you'll be there. There'll be bat angels, aliens, standing there, and then they'll be like, next, bring on the glass woman, next, and God knows who'll be after that. Right, yes, I know. It's fine. It's not important. It's just a bit annoying. Perhaps that's just me overreacting. It's nice that the war in Siam was mentioned, because let's face it, for a lot of people, the Second World War is primarily a European-centric war, but the clue's in the title, World War. But because it was Remembrance Sunday when it was on, you kind of were in the First World War mindset. So I was thinking, oh, he's aged, and I'd forgotten completely about the Second World War while I was watching this, because I'm so thick sometimes. But you know what? Racial tension and blaming people, that's a storyline that's questionable. Going back to my earlier point, imagine a Doctor Who story set in the 70s in Northern Ireland, or set in 1919 in Northern Ireland, or as it was known then, Ireland. Yeah, just imagine how touchy, how sensitive, and how upsetting that story could be. And this is the same thing. An arbitrary line drawn across a map. Not a real place. Just a line. To give people something else to fight over. Just another idea or ideal. Did I come full circle? Was that originally my intention for the whole podcast? Not really. I just wanted to make a point. What I wanted to say was that this was a genuinely good story. People need to shut up about mourning, because next week you've probably got some running around corridors with a giant space-borne Amazon-style delivery place. The only difference is their workers are probably not in slave-like conditions. Allegedly. So, perhaps the thing I should do is what loads of kids will have done, and gone off and done some research and learned something, rather than ramble on doing yet another podcast. But I love it. After 805 episodes, try and stop me. No, actually you could stop me quite easily, but leave it there. Have I made all my points? I don't know. It looked fabulous. It was filmed in Spain. Some people love it, some people hate it. And you know what? That end music, well, it might be for you, it might not. But a change might be as good as a rest. Look, I know that good old Mr. Chibbers is going to turn around at some point, probably next year, and go, oh, by the way, have an Ice Warrior. And they'll be brilliant because we'll be hungry for them. This man is an artist. Yes, his dialogue might not be of the same style as the previous showrunners, but you know what? Style does not mean talent. Think about it. It's a different type of delivery. It's a different way of seeing things. Sometimes Moffat felt like he was being too clever. Sometimes RTD felt like he was trying to shoehorn too much in. But that's because you could see what was going on. You could peek behind the curtains. Here, there's no curtain peeking. You're letting it wash over you, and you're grabbing at stuff that may or may not agree with your view of Doctor Who. Well, that's different. That's style. That's not talent. So let's let this series play out before you start making your random judgments and wearing your, open brackets, current showrunner, close brackets, must go place name here. No. Let's see how this goes. Because it's as if you're making a judgment on a meal and you've not eaten all of the courses yet. Look, I'm rambling and I'm preaching. One of those things I'm prone to do, and the other one makes me upset. So perhaps I should just let you go and get on with your lives. So until next time, when I'm probably going to be talking about Doctor Who, be seeing you. That was the Doctor Who Tin Dog Podcast, available on iTunes, YouTube, Twitter, RSS, Vimeo, and across the internet. Doctor Who and its associated properties are all copyright and trademark of the BBC. No infringement is intended. Why not become a supporter by visiting patreon.com/tindog. Contact the show on tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk. The Tin Dog Podcast is a founder member of the Doctor Who Podcast Alliance.
delivery for the doctor.
Something is very wrong here at Kablan. If anything happens to us, or anyone else here, you'll have me to answer to.